In this lesson, we're going to solve 3 word problems by defining some variables, writing a system of equations, and then solving the system of equations to help us answer the questions in each of the word problems. Well, our first problem is one that we solved another way several lessons ago. Bob has $10 more than Patrick. Together they have $42. How much money does each person have? When we looked at this problem several lessons ago, I suggested that we could have 2 variables, B for the amount of money Bob has, and P for the amount of money Patrick has. But we hadn't worked with systems of equations yet, so then I said, just express Bob's money in terms of Patrick's money. So instead of having a separate variable B, you could write P plus 10 because Bob has $10 more than Patrick. But now that we've covered system of equations, let's stick with 2 variables. And one equation is that the 2 of them together have $42. And the other equation is that Bob has $10 more than Patrick, which means that P plus 10 equals B. Well, you'll notice there's a real close relationship because our second equation is really just expressing Bob's money in terms of Patrick's money. But now that we have our equations like this, we can use substitution. We can take the P plus 10, substitute it in for B, and we now have P plus 10 plus another P is 42. 2P equals 32 because I've combined like terms and I've also added negative 10 to both sides. P equals 16 because I've divided both sides by 2. And I've jotted the 16 down up by where we've defined Patrick's variable. And then I take the 16, I substitute it for P in the other equation, and it doesn't take long to do 16 plus 10 to get 26. So Bob has $26 and Patrick has $16. We've defined 2 variables, we've written 2 equations, that's a system. We've solved the system using substitution. Here's another problem. Lucy played a game at an amusement park. In the game, she threw balls at a target. She was awarded 15 points if she hit the target, but she lost 25 points if she missed the target. After 20 throws, she had lost 60 points. How many times did Lucy hit the target? Well, our variables are going to be defined as H is equal to hits and M is equal to misses. And then we're going to make the assumption that every time she takes a throw, she either hits or she misses, that there are no other options. So our first equation is H plus M is equal to 20. And then our second equation is that we take the number of points for a hit and multiply it times the number of hits to find the total number of points for hits, 15H. And then the number of points lost, which we'll use as a negative number, times the number of misses to get the total number of points for all her misses. And since her total at the end was that she lost 60 points, we'll call that a negative number. And you can see our equation, 15H plus negative 25M is equal to negative 60. And now we have lots of choices, but it dawns on me that if I multiply the first equation by 25, then the variable M will be opposites in each of the equations. So then I take that transformed equation from the left and write it underneath our equation on the right. And now it's clear the negative 25M and the 25M are opposites. So when I add the 2 equations, I can just mark out those opposites and I get 35H is equal to 440. I divide 440 divided by 35 to get that H is equal to 11. Normally we'd substitute back to find out what M is, but in this case the question was, how many times did Lucy hit the target? H is equal to the number of hits. We've answered the question. Lucy hit the target 11 times. And we finished this problem. In our final problem, we have 12 cans of house brand cola and 8 cans of name brand cola cost $6.60. 8 cans of house brand cola and 12 cans of name brand cola cost $9. How much does 1 can of each type cost? Well, H is the price of a house brand cola, and N is the price of a name brand cola. And then we have our first equation, 12 house brands plus 8 name brands equals 660. and 8 house brands plus 12 name brands equals 900. Notice I've used 660 to replace $6.60, and I've used 900 to replace $9. So I'm dealing with cents. So when I get my answers for H and N, they'll both be in cents. Well, I'm going to divide everything in the first equation by 2 to get 6H plus 4N equals 330. Then I'm going to multiply everything in that equation by -3, and I get negative 18H plus negative 12N is equal to negative 990. I hope you can see why I did that. So now in the first equation I have a negative 12N, and in the second equation I have a positive 12N. So I'm choosing to use a linear combination, and I do. I take that equation on the left, I write it underneath the equation on the right, I add the two equations. Using a shortcut, I mark out the opposite, the 12N and the negative 12N, and I get negative 10H is equal to negative 90. Now I know the cost of a can of cola can't be a negative number, but since both numbers are negative in this equation, when I divide by negative 10, I get that H equals 9. So the house brand cans of cola are 9 cents apiece, and I take that 9 and I substitute it back for H in one of the original equations. I bring my work down where I have some clean space to work, and 12 times 9 is 108, plus HN is equal to 660. I add negative 108 to both sides. I get 8N is equal to 552. And then I divide both sides by 8, and I get that N, the price of a name brand cola, is 69, which I know is 69 cents. I can now answer the question. House brand costs 9 cents per can, and name brand costs 69 cents per can. And we all know that the house brands are cheaper, but they never seem to taste quite as good as the name brands, so most of us buy the name brand colas.